Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mind Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Cortegas, and I am a licensed therapist, life coach, and wellness consultant who works with high achieving individuals and power couples. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Leilani Ramos from El Paso, Texas, who is a licensed clinician in the state of Texas and Michigan, and who is an overall badass and former SWAT team member. Leilani is an EMDR trained, kink certified, and overall just an awesome therapist. She is also focused in BDSM, body image, and sexuality after sexual trauma. So, welcome, Leilani. I appreciate you jumping on today.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for letting me be on here with you, man.
A long time coming for the two of us to actually jump on this between our schedules and everything else and our practices. It is very difficult for the two of us to sit down, but I'm glad that we were able to. So, speaking of which, talk to me about your background and how you became a counselor.
Oh, okay. My background. How much time do we have? So, my background, the majority of my career was in law enforcement. I was in law enforcement for over 15 years. I started off in corrections. I was a detention officer, did some civil work as a deputy constable. Then I became a police officer here in El Paso, Texas. And while I was a police officer, I was also an instructor. I worked at the academy. I worked patrol. I worked plainclothes investigations. What else did I do? A self-defense, police self-defense tactics instructor, patrol tactics. I was on the SWAT team. I did backgrounds. There was everything that I wanted to do, I did, basically. Anything
Like I
that took
said,
my
overall
interest,
badass.
anything that took my interest, I was like, I'm gonna check it out and see what I can do with it. But how I became a counselor is, I mean, we all have our own journeys, right? On why we transitioned into this world. Just to touch a little bit on it, I speak on this topic at conferences, at virtual summits, and I talk about frontline trauma and what it does. So what happened was back in 2015, while we were working an operation with the narcotics unit and gang unit, I was a takedown unit with my partner. So takedown meaning we were the marked unit doing the traffic stops on the operation that they were working. Ended up doing a traffic stop on a vehicle. Long story short, I mean, there was two people in the vehicle. The driver came out. He was with my partner, and then I was left with the passenger. The passenger came out of the vehicle. However, he came out with a weapon and he pointed it towards my partner. So I had to act. And it was a split-second decision. And I think, and which ended fatally. So from the time of 2015 to 2019, I noticed a change in behavior. However, a lot of my processing happened in the gym. So I was into powerlifting. I was into just heavy weightlifting. That was a way for me to process what I was feeling. So I was still high functioning, overperforming at work, but behind closed doors, like my family was experiencing something different. I noticed the irritability. Now I have the language to describe what I was experiencing, but then I did not. There was the irritability, there was frustration, my marriage was falling apart. Also, there was behavior coming up. Well, that started to leak out into the workplace as far as the irritability. And I remember a lot of people in law enforcement who experience this. Like everyone has a vice, whatever it may be. It can be food, sex, drinking, smoking, spending, whatever it is. Like there's a vice out there. And I started to feel like I was walking on eggshells at work, like a walking time bomb. And I remember I told a lieutenant, I'm feeling very frustrated. I don't know what it is. I feel irritable, but I don't want to respond in a way that's out of character of who I am. So I'm raising my hand and I think I need to speak to someone.
Great.
Oh, that took a lot because the first thing that you think of is they're going to strip away your weapon. They're going to take your badge away. They're going to put you in a desk out of the field. So there's stigma, heavy stigma that's attached to this. So even if they have educational classes and training for officers on mental health, in theory, it's nice, but applied and seeing how departments navigate with individuals that are having certain struggles, it's totally different. So what happened? Took a time out, went through the whole workman's comp thing. That was forced to sit. Pretty much. And when I mean sit, it was to slow down and sit in my own shit, what was going on. They ended up sending me to some group therapy. And I remember walking into this group therapy class. Okay. And I see people coloring. They have their color pencils, there's coloring books. And I walk in and there's about 20 people in this class. Mind you, they're not cops. They're just Millions, just people that go to a group therapy. And I remember standing in the back of class and I go, this is fucking stupid. Like, this is fucking stupid. Seriously, that's what I was thinking. People are coloring. This is dumb. Anyways, I was forced to sit, be a good girl, be compliant, go to where they're telling you to go if you want to keep your job, right? Type of thing. So I go, I'm a good girl. And I'm sitting there and something happens. And this was very shifting for me. So the first week, I would say it's more of like the integration into a new environment. I'm hearing people speak about different things, their challenges, and people of all ages. Some people were veterans. There was also other law enforcement in there. And then you had like some elderly in there, just different populations of people, different pockets of experience. As time goes on, next thing you know, I'm in class with my own coloring pencils and my coloring book, right? You're forced to sit. And I'm understanding it a little bit more about just collectively listening to people. So whether it's a gentleman struggling with addictions, someone else having a hard time just to wake up in the morning because they just buried their kid that was 6 years old 3 months prior,
Yeah.
or an older woman who lost her husband. And then it hit me like one thing that's universal is pain. That's something that we all have in common. Finished up my group stuff, all that still challenges in the workplace, all paperwork, just a lot of the thing with insurance stuff. It's very challenging. And I left. I'm like, I no longer want to be here. I dropped my paperwork. Can't be in the same environment that got me sick. And I deserve better. My family deserves better. And I need to figure out myself and see what's going on. So if that was a huge grieving process, and something that they don't teach you is grief that follows responsibility. And this can be grief that follows making a responsible choice of a career transition, a responsible choice of leaving a relationship, and also grief that follows the responsible choice of saving a life of someone else, right? So it was a lot of stripping down. So in order for me to understand more, I was in my master's program in criminal justice during this time. I didn't care though. I was doing a group project on security thing, and all of my tabs on my screen were on PTSD, understanding PTSD, what it looks like, delayed onset of PTSD, and in law enforcement, case studies, just different things. And I remember I called my counselor. I'm like, I want to drop out of the criminal justice master's program. I don't want it. I want to enroll in the clinical counseling mental health program. What do I need to do? So yeah, I did what I had to do, met you in grad school. So that was my transition there. During that process, a lot of my processing, I was still seeing my psychologist, which I still do see now, worth every penny, that man. But I sat with plant medicine. I did ayahuasca, a microdose with psilocybin through different modalities and interventions with other facilitators. And that bypassed a lot of the things in your head of logic, and it taps you into the body. And then at the same time, I was also working with a practitioner in a dungeon. So a lot of my processing of my inner work came from a dungeon, and then processing my experience on the couch with my psychologist. So, and that's why now therapeutic BDSM, finding that collaborative network, finding Dr. Yolanda Renee, who is the creator and the inventor of that research, is what led me there. So in a nutshell, all of that is what made me become a counselor. And then on top of that, a lot of my specialties that I was interested in were things that I've experienced personally. So one of the main ones, like getting the EMDR certification. I just completed my consultation hours and I got my certification.
Awesome.
finally.
Congratulations.
And I went through over 24 sessions with my therapist and seeing how brutal and fulfilling that was.
And you bring up a great point. You put the work in and you're able to see the other side of it. And there's so many clients that we get every day that may or may not want to put the work in and think counseling is stupid. And from that standpoint, it's why we both work with individuals that are willing to put the work in and do see the results. They're not wanting to sit on the couch for years. They're wanting to improve their life.
Yes. And I was actually one of those people who thought counseling was stupid. I was one of those. I admit that in any mental health class, a training that we had to do in law enforcement, it was really early in my rookie years. I'd be the one in the back rolling my eyes just to sign the roster. Can we get this over with? But the universe has a way of humbling you.
Let's talk about that for a second. You're in the back of the classroom sitting there because in the workplace, and especially in law enforcement, what real mental health focus is there besides let's just get this done so we can go and do our jobs? Where you have the training for protection and weapons and everything else, but then it's like, okay, mental health, let's just skip on and go over real quick. But you and I both work with law enforcement. We work with FBI agents. We work with a lot of different people that are in these situations that you were in. And yes, you can relate because unfortunately you were in a situation that took a life and it spun you a little bit, but that happens. And it brought you to a place where you and I are sitting here today, which I'm grateful for. Let me ask, where do you think you would be today if you didn't seek out counseling?
Probably wouldn't be here at all.
Wow. Okay.
I came to a point of blacking out and not blacking out, but since it was hard for me to so in law enforcement, they teach you to articulate reports. This is the thing. Cops can articulate and the hell out of reports and why they did what they did, why they arrested someone. Okay. But when it comes to articulating what they're experiencing internally, there's challenges there. You're not taught that, especially depending on your cultural background, how you grew up. You think you're taught about feelings. And all of that is part of us of who we are as we develop and as we grow. So doesn't matter what title that you hold, how many degrees you have, you're not exempt from pain.
No, nobody's exempt from pain. And you bring up a great
Yeah.
point. Circling back, though, do you think that law enforcement, companies, just employers in general could do a better job of focusing on the mental health side of things for their team members?
Very much so. So I'm also a part of the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement in the state of Texas, and I'm part of the Wellness Committee Board, which bridges the gap between mental health and law enforcement officers. So I'm part of this committee, and we oversee all of the police departments in Texas for all licensed peace officers. Well, front lines, it can also be dispatchers. You have your jailers, your firefighters, and there's a lot of gaps, Chris. There is a lot of gaps in the system. However, we're maybe a step better in moving things, how more training is being out there, more resources and peer support groups that are being implemented within departments. However, all of those things are available, but there's also a stigma attached to using those resources. So if there's any law enforcement officers that's listening to this, this is something I tell law enforcement that I work with. You pay into your benefits. Every month, look at your paycheck, look at the pay stub, look at the deductions. And those benefits, like people like to say, let me say some old school stuff here is, well, you signed up for the job, right? You signed up for it. Yeah, but you also signed up for those benefits that they offer you when you take on the job, just in case you would need to use them.
No, that's a great point.
Right. So your insurance is there for a reason for you to use in case you need to use it.
But let's go back. You mentioned earlier the stigma of mental health when you were going to go into when you needed it and didn't realize you needed to talk to somebody. I mean, there's so many men, women, high achieving individuals, and especially law enforcement that have that stigma. Even though this is available, I don't need it, or it's for the other people. What would you say to those people right now that have that stigma that are wearing the uniform? I mean, those amazing individuals that risk their lives every day. I mean, I have many police officers and firemen in my practice that I see, and so do you. So they went through the stigma and had to make the hardest phone call that they've ever made. But what do you say to the others that are still out there?
It's easy to judge someone if you don't understand it. Once you know what it is and you experience it yourself, it just gives you a different perspective and worldview that you're not immune to it. So be mindful with your words, if anything. You can have it, like, think what you want, but be mindful with your words. And, it's okay to text someone and check up on them.
And that's a great point. It's okay to just reach out to somebody and say, hey, are you okay?
Or not even that, because someone who is, let's say, taking some time off work, some people will reach out, but they're already experiencing a hypervigilance. They're already experiencing something they're uncomfortable with, possibly shame, anger, rage, whatever against the department. So it's hard. It can be challenging for someone to disconnect a friendship from an entity, an agency, because they see it all as one. And then also, let's be real, like some professions behind closed doors are professional high schools. Stories get flipped.
Yeah, they
So
do.
when somebody reaches out to someone and the other person doesn't respond, don't take it personal as if they're not responding to me and then slap on some negative labels to it. Well, what they're going through is very personal. And if you don't know, then you're probably not in their circle to know. And that's okay too.
That's great advice and that's great information because there's a lot of people that need to hear that. As you said, there's so many businesses or professions, teachers, firefighters, police officers that they're afraid of the gossip or what is somebody going to say or what is somebody going to think. And yeah, it's an oversized high school and some of us never get to graduate or whatever it is. But no, you bring up a great point and that's great advice. So I appreciate you mentioning that. You brought up something about your certifications and you talked about EMDR and PTSD and some other things that you've explored so far. Can you touch base a little bit on those and what you're using them and how you're using them?
Okay, so EMDR, I use that in sessions. I also love parts work because do you do parts work?
I don't.
No. Okay, so EMDR, there's a connection with EMDR and also therapeutic BDSM. I'm not saying they're both in the same category, but with different types of stimuli, you're able to access different parts of the body internally that talk therapy will take you probably forever, probably won't get you to. So can I touch on therapeutic BDSM for a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So you actually, that's one of my questions I was going to ask you. You touched on dungeons. So for those
Yes.
out there that have never, I mean, we hear Dungeons and Dragons, we hear all that exciting stuff. Describe the dungeon that you referred to earlier.
So a dungeon is some are public and some are private, some are members only. And it's where those in alternative lifestyles, whether they practice BDSM or kink, where they have a space for education, workshops, parties, mentorship. It's a space to go to.
And when you say alternative lifestyles, can you expand on that one?
Yeah, it's just something outside of the traditional norms of society. So I wouldn't call it a BDSMer or like a kinkster. I'm not a kinkster. And I learned that as I continue to learn more about myself. But I, BDSM is a way of life for me. It's not my identity, but it is a way of life and how I'm intimate in DS dynamics. And that's not sexual romantic relationships, but it's just connection in general, deeper friendships, deeper intimacy. Within DS dynamics, you're able to be with others who don't want to wear their mask anymore and they can just be. And your traditional relationships or whatever, I don't even like to use the word vanilla. There's different sides of power, whether you want to realize that or not. In the dungeons, it's just visible.
Okay.
Within DS, it's visible, it's understood, it's agreed upon. There's rituals, there's agreements, it's sacred, and it's also playful.
You mentioned BDSM is not kink. So for those out there that, and you and I are both, we have a sexual background, and I don't mean that in a negative term, as we're both educated to talk about sex. We're educated to understand the difference with clients that have porn addictions or people that see escorts or whatever it is. They all have their different fetishes, if you want to use it that word, or different, like you said, vanilla, and they want to, they want to try the 31 flavors of Baskin Robbins. And so I work with a lot of the high achieving individuals that want to explore, and they come to me and they have these thoughts because of, like you said, society says I can't have these thoughts. So they view it as kink and they want to explore the BDSM side of things. Expand a little bit more what you said, that BDSM isn't kink. And what would you say to those individuals out there that are married, or, and I'm not saying cheating or vice versa, it has to be a conversation that's for a different podcast, but for those that want to feel open, they come to me because they're ashamed that they want to try BDSM or they want to try the DS relationship and they think they have a kink or they think they have a fetish, but like you said, it really isn't. Can you expand?
So they can fall under the same umbrella, but there's differences. So kink is things that are, again, not traditional in a sense of things that give you pleasure. So it can also include implements. It can include different types of sensations. You have your tops, you have your bottoms that have an agreement to experience different things, right? Some people can enjoy spanking. Well, within BDSM, it's different because there's also an element of power exchange. There's kink without the power exchange, and then you have BDSM that includes power exchange or total power exchange or whatever it is that's agreed upon. And then you have your DS dynamics that also fall under BDSM.
Makes perfect sense. So when you talk about your dungeon and your DS relationships, what kind of clients are you currently working with?
So I do coaching and I also see clients in the clinical counseling side of my work. I also have my own dungeon here in El Paso, Texas, where most of my coaching is done. Those are the clients that I see. So I do more of like a mentorship program, and it helps others access different parts of themselves through different modalities, whether it's bondage, impact, it can be bondage, impact, role play, different types of sensations. My gosh, I call it Disneyland. Okay. Because what do we do as we get older? We forget to play.
We do.
And
Absolutely right.
sometimes,
To enjoy life.
right, sometimes not all play is laughter. Laughter is a form of medicine, but sometimes within some of these sessions that include impact, there is processing that happens. So it bypasses the logic, takes you straight into your body, and you're able to gain awareness of some things that you were possibly avoiding. You don't know. So I call it you're going into your inner basement. And so that happens frequently with impact, different forms of impact. So when I look at my implements, whether it be different paddles, different textures of floggers, single tail, just whatever it is that I have, I call it medicine. There are different types of medicine for what is it that you want to experience. And for some of us, especially what I've noticed with those that I've worked with that are veterans in law enforcement, very high achievers, right? Go, 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 go. It's hard for them to sit still. So
100%.
when you are enter into a scene with someone who takes control, it's of course everything's consensual and agreed upon for the
Yes.
experience, and everyone's adults. Okay, throw that in there. It allows you. It can allow you to sit back and receive. And then there are also other scripts that come out that I also see. So there's resistance.
Okay.
There is
Resistance. Well,
happens.
expand on that.
Resistance is wanting to overthinking in session, wanting to control everything. What's next? What's next? So with that, a good thing, something that you can implement, well, what I implement is blindfolds. Sensory deprivation. You can't see what's going on. You know exactly what's going to be used. It was agreed upon, but
Right.
taking out, especially the eyes, and taking just out that they have no choice but to focus on either their sound and what's going on and what they're feeling on their body. So those are different levels of resistance. A lot of another thing is no, it's not just play. It's so much deeper because you're working with a human system, and a human system has a lot of armor, and this armor comes from different life experiences that they hold on to. So it's very important and ethical for those who practice, whether they're pro practitioners, because I don't do pickup play. It's not pickup play for me. You have to take into consideration the entire human system, their background, their cultural upbringing, the DNA that's in their veins, right? There's different triggers that can happen. So, for example, someone that if I'm working in a coaching, with a client, we've done a lot of different type of work, and now we're going to go into a scene, right? What I would consider just a temperature check scene is different positions. How do they receive instructions? Things like that before ever using anything. It's just command presence and how do you deal with someone else telling you basically what to do and control, right? Now, if I don't take in me as a pro practitioner, if I don't take into consideration that my client is a Black male and he has ancestral DNA, right, from past generations that are encoded into his human system, there can actually be a trigger that's activated. So I talk about these things with my coaching clients of possibilities that come up, right? So if there is resistance, notice it. Where is it in the body? What does it feel like? How are you feeling right now? Some will vocalize, I feel pissed. Okay, that's
Okay.
yours. Then also giving them the choice. Do you want to continue or do you want to call a timeout? And then we sit and process what's going on right now. So they have the choice. It leaves them in control of things.
Right, that you stop and you process and you talk about the feeling of where it's at in the body, what it is in the body. Sometimes as men, we can't figure out what that emotion is. And for you to be a professional that you are, you're able to walk them through. Is it A? Is it B? Is it C? Where is it at? What does this mean? And be able to talk truly about processing to give them the information that they really didn't know they even needed. Or as men and people in law enforcement and all over, we get that anger and we don't know where it comes from, but we just know it comes. Or we get that pain. I work with a client that has high anxiety and he gets really tense and stressed out. And he's like, I can't control it. I can't control it. So we talk through it. It's like, all right, what happened when that happened? Or when you felt that anxiety? So very similar. And you hit the nail on the head with the processing of what they're feeling, what's going through. And I hate to say as counselors, oh, what are you feeling now? But no, you bring up, 100%, but it's no different than if you're a badass in the weight room too, pushing plates and everything else like that. It's no different than your trainer pushing you to the limits
Yes.
of mentally challenging you to squat X amount of weight. Well, I can't do it. Why can't you do it? Let's talk about
Yeah.
it. Or, what kind of pain are you having after you functioned it or did this? So the BDSM is no different than going to the gym and being pushed to your limits. So
Yeah.
many athletes, I work with pro athletes, and that we talk about pushing ourselves to the limits and then talking about what that means or what that looks like and what are their best hopes from doing these exercises and what they're looking to gain out of it. So
Yeah.
I love
So
exactly what you're talking about.
So you just touched on something I want to talk about just a little bit more on how the men that you work with experience a lot of anger, right?
Yes.
Intensity, very high intensity. That's acceptable, right? According to them, that's acceptable. Society, it's okay for a man to be angry, right? Women, they're just emotional. And I want to touch on this because of of something I also see in sessions, okay, and seen in the dungeon. When somebody wants to have an experience and then you're going through the checklist of the different implements, this is something that I notice. Some go strictly to some of the intense implements, right? Intense tools. Let's say they would rather go to a heavy dingy flogger. But then on this side, I have a furry flogger, right? And I'll ask, so why do you pick these? Well, it's because they look badass. I can take it. I can take it. Well, what's your definition with these softer objects? What I'm getting to is some people have a hard time receiving gentleness.
Yeah, 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
And
Where that is
we don't know how to
considered,
receive it because we were
mhm,
never shown how to receive it.
right.
And a
That
lot of
part.
us, yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
there's no, I mean, there's some truth, and everybody knows I'm solution focused. We can't fix what happened in our past, but there is some triggers from our past that make us choose, like you said, A or B. But understanding why we chose A or B, so that when we move
Yeah.
forward, we can find what is our best hope from choosing A or B. What is our best hopes from going through the process that you're going through. And when they sit down with me, like you said, we both work with high achieving individuals. So it's from my end, you're looking to figure out emotional and processing. And I'm looking to say, all right, let's draw the line in the sand. Let's move forward. We can't
Yeah.
fix that you weren't loved as a child, but what we can fix is the way you process what you've just learned moving forward so that you can create a better environment for you.
Yes, right? Like spot on with that. Especially on the scripts that are playing in the background in someone's life. Those are from their life experience. Of course, they're there and they're equally important. And like back onto the floggers, if someone's associating something that's furry and fluffy with gentle and I don't want that, right? I don't want to experience that. You can still be gentle with the heavy, thuddy leather flogger, right? And still creating that experience of what they feel is intense. And it's, if anything, it allows them to collect more data on themselves.
Yes.
So through different modalities, talking about the dungeon, through different modalities done in the dungeon, they're able to access deeper parts of themselves through sensation. And there's messages that come up. And then there's imprints that we all have in our life. And these imprints that we have, a lot of them there wasn't consent. You know what I mean? So it's how can we also do something different with these imprints and create a different narrative while also still acknowledging and giving that part compassion?
100%. I agree with you. It's acknowledging it's happened. There's nothing we can do to change it. It happened. But what do you want to do with that information moving forward?
Yeah. Now that you know and you see it, even when it comes to patterns, you know this. Now, what do you want to do?
Yes.
What are you going to do with it? With that wisdom, what are you going to do with it?
It's the old cliche of just because you're born poor doesn't mean you have to stay poor, or just because you were born in a miserable situation doesn't mean that you can't create a new one for your family, for yourself, and work on yourself to bring yourself out of those. Yeah, I was an orphan. I was in foster homes. I was in XYZ, but now I'm a millionaire because I worked my way out of those situations. I worked on myself. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be I'm in the system the rest of my life and that's it because I'm in the system. We have a choice. It's A or B.
Yep.
I love that.
It
So
Because it all
with
ends.
yes,
So what are you gonna do
yeah,
with
you're
what you
gonna
got, with the time you got? Yeah. You have
yeah.
so many sunrises and sunsets, and you don't know how many you got left.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, the older I get, the more, my grandmother used to say, you have breakfast every 15 minutes. And I never knew what she meant by that until I feel like I'm having breakfast every 15 minutes. And it just hit. And it's like, wow, you got to stop and enjoy those sunrises and sunsets because shit, it could be the last. You don't even know. We just don't know. And when we talk about those sunsets, when we talk about all the processing of the information, what kind of clients are you currently working with?
I'm working with frontline professionals. I'm also working with those in alternative lifestyles, basically what my profile says. And that's the thing is I just put everything out there. There was this one clinician was like, "My God, you're kink ally. Like, how do you put that out there and not be judged?" And this was another therapist, okay? And I was just like, I just am who I am, and that's the population I serve.
It's funny. I just did a podcast on if your clinician is judging you, fire them
That
because
that
oh my God,
that
it's
part.
one of my pet peeves. It's
Yeah.
I had a and in that podcast I talk about a couple that came in and they had seen three other therapists that all said they needed to get divorced. And I looked at them and I said, "What would you want to do?" They're like, we want to save our marriage. We've been married 25 years. All right, well, let's save our marriage then." And I followed up with them a couple of weeks ago and they're happier than they've been in 25 years. But it's the problem and the stigma that people come to counseling and they think that, oh my God, I can't tell him that I like BDSM, or I can't tell him I like kink, or I can't tell him I like
Mm,
this or that, or I can't tell him that that our relationship is open. I worked with us 8 weeks I spent with a couple, and something was off. And I finally just looked at them and I'm like, what am I missing? And they looked at each other and like, do you want to tell them? And they were exploring an open relationship and polyamorous and all this shit.
mm,
And I looked at them, I go, all right, now we can get to the root cause. Now we can figure out what's
okay.
going on. Is this an idea of someone? Did you want this? Are you doing it because of pleasing him? And all of a sudden we were able to, when they finally realized I didn't give a shit, they were able to process and understand, well, I did it because he wanted to, and I'm not comfortable with it. And that relationship is stronger than ever. But
Mm.
again, I asked you, what kind of clients do you work with? And the reason I'm asking that question is, what do the clients look like? They look like me. They look like you. They look like the average individual walking down the street. And I want for everybody that's listening to this podcast, I want them to realize that it's okay to feel the way you're feeling. It's okay to say, I want the DS relationship, or I want the SD relationship, and to release that power, because the C-suite individuals I work with, they sit there and they go, oh, I just need something else. I need something else. And then finally they'll come out and they'll say, well, I have a kink, or I have this, or I have that. I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about it. Let's explore it. It's okay to have these things. So that's why I asked you the question. What do they look like? Are they fat and lovable like me? Or are they, gorgeous and beautiful like you? Or it's just telling everybody out there, what do they look like?
They look like normal people walking down the
All right.
street. There's no one, it's just black and white. No, it's all the different arrays of colors and
Yeah,
backgrounds.
it is. It's very interesting that it's okay. It's okay to talk about this. And we both work with high professional functioning people as sex positive therapists with kinks and fetishes and everything else. And as I just said, it's the dynamic that the people we work with, they come in suits and ties. They come in gym shoes. They come in with $1 million watches on, and they come in with just average everyday guys. It's all of us that just are out there, just everyday people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to touch on a post that you had on TikTok the other day where you talked about BDSM can influence self-esteem. Expand on that a little bit for me.
Definitely it can. So it can influence self-esteem. And I say that because it also allows you to explore your own relationship with self and self-trust. How many times do people go away from their own intuition or what they instinctively think is right, but then they say, I'm overthinking it. I'm tripping. Like you play it off only to later on be like, fuck, I was right. I was
Yeah.
right, right? Like, I know I've experienced that. So what does a relationship with self-trust look like? Let's explore that. And also using your voice. So especially like you talked about this earlier about the challenges that men face. Yeah. And women too, like both humans, let's say humans in general. One thing that I constantly see is suppression of the things that they want to say, which leads to what, when you don't say shit, it shows up in different ways. Well, I can't speak up for myself because I'm just going to get dismissed. Possibly there's rejection, not understanding. People's defenses are up, their egos are at the wheel. So there's a lot of things that keep us from speaking and using our words within BDSM in the dungeon. That's a non-negotiable. You will use your words unless you're instructed not to, right? But before going into it, there is such a deep rooted negotiation process it's deep. It's not just what do you want to feel? No, it's like, where are you on your journey? What does it feel like? This scene what do you want to experience? And one of the core things, it doesn't matter whether it's on the clinical couch or in the dungeon, there's a commonality in people wanting to experience their own aliveness
Yes.
because they feel so stuck in just the mundane. This is a routine. This is life. I guess this is just how it is. Well, I'm married now. I guess this is just how it is. But there's a deeper craving of aliveness and also of wanting to be seen and understood. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. And it's so many couples, you used the word vanilla earlier. I have so many couples that I work with that they come in and they say, we have a communication problem. And I say, well, is it communication or is it alignment? And when we start breaking it down, it's the wife wants to, because like you said, the vanilla of it, we're supposed to view everything like this. And when they actually come in and they realize, well, I want to use toys. And it's like, okay, but I was afraid to ask. Well, why? And then we talk about, and that's just the most simplistic thing is go to the store and buy something together and have fun with it. And they'll come in the next week and they're like laughing and giggling. They're like, oh, this was fun. We went to the store. We picked out something. It was kind of cool. We got a couple extra things. We're doing this once a week now. And so many people are just the stigma of what's out there that they're afraid to just say, I want to use a vibrator in the bedroom. I want
Yeah.
to explore different positions. I want to, and if we can't ask those type of questions to our most trusted or intimate partner, then who are we supposed to ask those to? And what you're working on, both in the clinician room that you're in right now and in the dungeon, helps explore those and helps people find out what they want and how to communicate what they want.
That part, how to communicate what they want. And I had something on it while you were speaking. It came up to mind on those in relationships that want to experience something different, right? Not necessarily outside of the relationship, but with each other. There's yes to toys and having fun in that way. There's also a deep shame that sometimes pleasure's a negative. It's bad. I shouldn't actually enjoy this based off scripts and life experiences that they have. So like decoding that and finding out, well, where did this first come from? And is this your belief or is this somebody else's belief? And if this belief doesn't serve you and how the quality of life it is that you want to live, then how can we move in that direction of unpacking that? Who does that belong to? If it ain't yours, let's give that belief back. And then you're in charge of the belief that you want to develop. You're totally in charge of that. That's your choice.
100%.
But again, a lot of our life scripts, the things that during our development stages, what our cultural backgrounds, religion, like that's a whole nother topic, right? Especially
Yeah,
religion
different
and
podcast for that.
sexuality. Yeah. So it's like there's so many different layers to things. But one thing I would love to tell couples that is you're experiencing you or your partner changing, congratulations. That's a whole part of life
Isn't it?
is you change, and if you can change with each other through different phases and have these relationship check-ins, have this see, the thing is that people like to say communication is key. Well, it's comprehension, and it's also sitting in a place of receiving
Yes.
and being able to respond without your armor on and your heart open.
Yes. I talk to my clients all the time about just bring your guard down to a zero, will you please? And listen to what's actually being said versus what you think they're going to say. So you talked a little bit about a special doctor that you met that with therapeutic BDSM and the collaborative network. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yes. So remember, I told you in the beginning, a lot of my processing happened in a dungeon through
Yes.
impact, through different flogging scenes. I was able to access different parts of scripts that were like deeply encoded into my body. So, how trauma lives in the body. And with those experiences, I process with my psychologist in my therapy sessions. Then I would have these conversations with some people in different communities. And I'm like, it's a form of therapy. Like, no, it's not. It's just play. Well, then I started to feel like I don't fit into certain spaces because what I was experiencing was psychosomatics. I was able to access deeper things that I thought I processed. Actually, I was able to access things I avoided for a very long time. So one day I'm on LinkedIn and I type in therapeutic BDSM and a profile pops up. Boom. Like trademark therapeutic BDSM founder. I'm like, okay, well, let me read what they got to say and see if it aligns with what the language it is that I'm seeking. So it was Dr. Yolanda Renee Raham. I read her stuff. She had 3 books already out on therapeutic BDSM and how accessing different parts of the body and through sensation can help bypass the logic and the overthinking and help with processing for healing.
Okay.
Perfect alignment, right? I'm
Right.
like,
Yeah.
"Hey,
I
she's
mean,
putting this in perfect language." So there's a lot of different things that she's talking about. I hit her up, send her a message. I would love to have a consultation with you, sit down and talk. I just got your stuff. I ordered your books. No response. I found her on all her social medias, copy paste that message and send it to all her inboxes. I finally got a response. We had a consultation and I'm listening to more about her work and what she does. And I'm telling her my experience, my background, how I'm here and what exactly it is that I'm looking for. And everything that she's speaking about is what I experience. And I'm looking for the language for it. So I let her know I was completing grad school. I'm learning the language and the clinical part of how everything works, but how do I integrate what I've learned in the dungeon and also what I learned with my own healing journey? So fast forward, I grew a professional relationship with her. She's also the founder of KIPSA, which is the Kink Professional Standards Alliance, and it's a board that oversees kink professionals and clinicians. And then she's also the founder of the Therapeutic BDSM Collaborative Network, which is a certification course for clinicians and pro practitioners. So that's bridging the gap within those who already do the somatic work and those clinicians who are also understanding of the psychosomatics that can help with healing and an overall better quality of life. So deep into the certification course, there's a lot of things like kink and brain, how hormones interact. There's also attachment styles that show up within DS dynamics. So it all weaves together. It's just a different modality and how to access and process. So It's highly vetted. Everyone that's involved is highly vetted. The pro practitioners are highly vetted. They're already leaderships in their community. They've already been doing the work for X amount of years and have like books, and so they're vetted. There's you say it. There's evidence, right? There's evidence that they've been doing this for a while. It's not just going to be someone who's like, I'm a pro dom and I've been in pro dom for
It's an
months. And
evidence-based
yeah,
theory backed by research.
yeah,
And you bring up
we
you
just
bring up a
completed a pilot study on it where I was the clinician and I worked with the pro facilitator, and things have to be separate, especially from like note sharing, all sorts of things due to ethics and legalities and HIPAA, of course. So you have the pro practitioner, you have the clinician, you have the client. You also have consultants that are also available, and they also bridge the gap between the clinicians and the pro practitioners. But it's out there. She's doing the work. It's great. I love being a part of it.
and I want everybody else that's listening to this video to understand this is a certified process. This is something that has been studied. This is something that has been educated. This is something that is taught properly. It is not just some random bullshit in a basement anywhere else. This is real. This is no different than any other modality that you could find in a counseling practice, from EMDR to CBT to anything else. This is legit. I mean, and I get people all the time saying solution focus isn't legit. Bullshit. It's in the manuals, and it is research. It is backed by studies and educated people, just like what you're talking about. So this isn't just some random off the cuff thing that you're doing. This is backed by science. This is backed by a board of ethics, and this is backed by someone who is watching each other.
Yes.
And that's what counseling is.
Yes,
And
but just like any, let's say, different interventions that come out, they're considered, some are considered very taboo. Let's say somatics back in, I mean, that one was nixed for a while back in the day, and then finally it came in. There's also perfect one. Psilocybin
yes,
integrated therapy, like that was very taboo. Backed by research now, they're also doing more research with veterans and PTSD, and the therapeutic processing that happens and measurable outcomes, right? So that's out there too. Just things are considered taboo until they're not.
EMDR.
EMDR is another one.
EMDR was considered taboo because it doesn't work, it won't work, and anything else. And then all of a sudden they started doing the studies and the research, and now there's an EMDR certified system. And you went through the training, you understand what it is, you understand how it works, and people are now asking for it because it's out there in the mainstream. But yes, it started out as taboo. It started out as something that's not normal.
Right.
So let me ask you this: if somebody's seeking out counseling or thinking about counseling, what would you say to them?
Be very, very picky and selective about who you choose as a therapist, because you are allowing this person to go behind the tape and the curtain of your life. So be very selective. If you got to go through like 5 different consultations, I know it's exhausting, do it. And if it feels right, go with it. And if it doesn't feel right and you're already in it, it's okay to change it. Be very selective, because it's one of the best investments in yourself.
Yes.
Don't shortcut that.
No, I
Because the
agree.
relationship that you build with your therapist is so fruitful when you're a match.
Yes, I cannot agree more with you. And I tell people all the time, it takes 3 or 4 times to find the right one that you're going to be able to click with. And it's okay. It's okay if you go the first one doesn't work and the second one doesn't work. Because again, as we mentioned earlier, if you get that jackass out there that's going to be judgmental, gone. If you get the jackass out there that's going to give you advice, gone. Find the one that fits you. I tell everybody every time, I'm not for everybody.
I say it too. I'm not for everyone.
And that's okay. But for
Mhm.
those who I am okay with and those that you are okay with, man, they're coming out on the other side and they're feeling good. So as we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to talk about today?
Nothing that comes up to mind right now, but this was I love this experience. So thank you, Chris, for
No, the
having
pleasure
me
is
on your
mine to have
channel.
you on. So if somebody wants to work with you or get a hold of you, how do they find you?
Just type in Leilani Ramos on Psychology Today.
TikTok. So what's your handle on TikTok?
Lani Ramo, so without the S. So Leilani, Ramo. And yeah, I'm not a therapist on there. I'm just a regular. It's not just for therapy and separate identities. It's just my life that I share. And then also for coaching, you can find me at the Armory, armorystudio.com.
All right. I love that. And then one final question is, do you do telehealth? Because you are an amazing individual that is very unique. And being in El Paso, there's going to be other people that want to have your services. Will you talk to them online like we're doing today?
Yeah, I do offer virtual and I do offer in person.
That's fantastic. So, again, Leilani, I really appreciate you joining us today. It was a wonderful conversation, and I'm looking forward to others. So, if you like this video, make sure you hit the like button below. If you want to subscribe so you see more information, please do that as well. If you want to work with Leilani, you got the information. I'm also going to put it down in the bio below so you do have it. And again, really appreciate you watching this video. You can find us at askmetanoia.com and askchrisk.com. And until then, we'll see you on the next video.